Chevron gets overturned. Is the Mika actually a good statue for crypto? And crypto frees Julian Assange. All that and more coming up on Block and Order. Welcome to Block and Order, the show that explores the legal issues facing the world of Web3 and beyond. I'm Kyle Lawrence, and with me, as always, come on everybody, let's make this guy more famous than the Hawk Tuah girl, Moish Peltz.
Oh God, that's too famous, Kyle. Let's scale it back. I want to be like 30% that famous.
You want to be infamous like in Three Amigos? Would that be better?
No, well, yeah, I guess infamous and
It means
famous.
more than
You
famous.
got to pick one, right?
You know, a lot of people I'm noticing are giving her a hard time, or you're seeing all this curmudgeonly, old-timey stuff about, oh, welcome to America. You're famous for doing absolutely nothing. But you know what? The older I get, if I were walking down the street, bombed, and gave some random interview and said something completely ridiculous, and then throngs of people wanted to be my friend and throw tons of money at me, I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Well, you did go to school in New Orleans, so that makes sense.
That's true.
That's kind of like you can take Kyle out of New Orleans, but you can't take Nola out of you.
No, that's true.
But look, we're going to be in Nashville in a couple of weeks, and you're going to have your chance again if that's what you want, Kyle.
It's true. I mean, I'll have an ample opportunity to make a complete fool out of myself and get rich off of it, and I cannot wait.
We might have to record an episode of Block and Order in Nashville. So
I think we have no choice at this point.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So to the top of the order, we are looking at SEC versus Binance. Judge Amy Berman Jackson of the District Court for the District of Columbia issued an order on a motion to dismiss, which was filed by Binance US, and CZ, which dismissed some but not all the claims against those entities. I think primarily important was the decision about whether or not crypto assets are themselves securities. So Judge Jackson rejected the SEC's allegations. This is the embodiment theory, right? That the tokens somehow embody the investment contract themselves. But no, so there's tokens and there's sales of a token pursuant to an investment contract, which is what a lot of the legal crypto defense bar has been saying. And so Judge Jackson dismissed the agency's claims relating to secondary market sales of tokens and some other related products and services. So, Kyle, how important do you think is this decision in the plethora of both crypto decisions in the past couple of weeks and also just, more generally Supreme Court jurisprudence? It seems like the courts have been on fire the past couple of weeks.
Well, it's certainly nice to see some momentum heading in the right direction. And you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the idea that comes through in this decision that the tokens themselves, the assets themselves are not securities. And I think that's a very common misconception one we encounter all the time when we talk with issuers and we talk with even regulators. And it's kind of mixed messaging. It's that the tokens themselves, the assets are not securities. It's the manner in which they are sold to investors that makes them, quote, investment contracts. And if they satisfy the Howey test, making them an investment contract, thus they are securities governed by the federal securities laws. So it is nice to see some consistency, which, followed the Ripple case. That was one of the first major one to have that domino fall. And it's just good to see that courts are following in those footsteps. You're starting to see the narrative take hold that it's the manner in which these things are sold. And hopefully that's, an omen or a positive omen of things, to come. They did. It's also worth noting that the court, rejected these allegations that crypto tokens somehow embody investment contracts in and of themselves. And I think that's a key takeaway from the case. Where do you think we go from
right
here?
About this now having this is how the legal process works, especially when we're in this regulation by enforcement,
right.
There needs to be enforcement. There needs to be jurisprudence that says, green light, red light, yes, no. I think this was actually this decision was, 80 something pages. I think was probably the most comprehensive discussion of this idea of whether secondary sales are actually, is a securities sale pursuant to Howey. I think the analysis there is probably the most in depth. I think it does kind of stand on the shoulders of a lot of those decisions we've been talking about on the show for the past, almost a year now. And yeah, I mean, it's going to give us a little bit more of that flavor of, in which exact context a secondary sale of a crypto token going to be subject
Right.
to, the securities contract kind of framework?
Well, certainly in instances, and similar to Ripple, when Judge Torres ruled that the programmatic sales were not securities, it's because the people buying them, they're not buying them necessarily from the issuer. And most of the time, you have no idea who you're buying it from. So how can that satisfy the Howey test? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but I think the question still is, right? Like, if you're from a practical level, like, okay, great decision, but I still have to worry about like how to do this stuff. And so it gives us a little bit more information, but it doesn't put anything to bed. And you still have people asking, well, I mean, it still doesn't make it clear, right? For people that are trying to do sales, that are trying to compensate people, that are trying to do whatever with tokens, there's still a lot of gray area, and still not easy. Yeah. So,
well, if it puts the question to bed, then we wouldn't have a show anymore. Come on, yeah,
that's true.
well, definitely
you heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, definitely an interesting development. But that brings us to that's a great segue into the next topic on the order, which is, as I'm sure everybody heard, Chevron has been overturned, and I'm sure that you're seeing a lot of scuttlebutt, depending on your partisan news entertainment channel of choice, what everyone wants to think about that. But at the end of the day, Chevron has been overturned by the United States Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision. Chevron was established in 1984 and effectively grants or granted federal regulators with broad authority to interpret ambiguous statutes brought down by Congress, which allowed these agencies to enforce their own interpretations with deference from the courts. We see that time and time again from the SEC. Chief Justice John Roberts had criticized Chevron as unworkable, stating it allowed agencies to change regulatory course without congressional authorization. This decision now requires the courts to independently evaluate agency actions based on statutory limits. The main concept you want to take away is called Chevron deference, which the court reasoned is irreconcilable with the Federal Administrative Procedures Act, which commands that the reviewing court, not the agency, must decide all relevant questions of law. Moish, what do you think about this? There's a lot of talk about this, but I'm curious as to your thoughts.
What are my thoughts on Chevron? Well, look, we all went to law school, and for the past 40 years, this is everything people are taught about, agency law in law school. So there's a whole category, right? Everyone, maybe everyone's heard Chevron the past week, or last few days, but what does it mean? And it deals with the mechanics of how administrative agencies and the executive branch of government, how they interpret legislation and provide guidance and make rules, and then whether those rules are going to. So, I'm a little bit pissed, right, that everything I know about Chevron I learned in law school is now, depleted. I guess deprecated. We don't get a refund for our law school classes back then. I don't know how much impact this is going to have, right?
Yeah.
If anything, I think this is an argument that the SEC actually should do no more rulemaking, because they're not going to get any deference when they do it. Right? So,
yeah.
All right, screw rulemaking. Let's just enforce and let the judges figure it out anyways. So that's a little bit of a scary proposition that, now I think the flip side of this is, when Congress passes legislation, they now have an opportunity to say, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. We are specifically authorizing the agencies to interpret or to go and fact find and to figure out the regulatory muddle in the middle. But until Congress gives them that authority, the courts don't have to listen to them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just feel like this is, defeat the new boss, same as the old boss kind of thing, because you're just replacing one master for another. The sort of push to get this overturned was, we're tired of this, government overreach and blah, blah, blah. So now, instead of, a government agency telling you what to do, you're going to have a judge in Montana telling you what to do. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry. And there's I don't know what the old proverb is. I know it from Charlie Wilson's War. It's the "we'll see." It's little boy gets a bicycle. Everybody says how wonderful. Wise man says "we'll see." And then he breaks his leg and everybody says how terrible. And he says "we'll see." Then they go to war. The little boy has a broken leg. He can't fight in the war. Everyone says how wonderful. Wise man says "we'll see." That's where we're at. We'll see.
We'll see. There was the penultimate episode of Bluey. Had a "we'll see" episode, which I heartily recommend everyone with and without kids. go check out. But yeah, it's for sure. This is we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
We'll see. Said the Zen master.
All right, next on the order, we are talking about Certik and Kraken. So Kraken is a major U.S. crypto exchange. Certik is a major, what do we call these people? They are auditors for crypto smart contracts and projects. What a cool business that didn't exist until
Right.
5 years ago. So it's a research company that helps crypto companies audit smart contracts and does a lot of for-hire work in the industry. Now, what they did was Certik identified an issue in the Kraken exchange that was basically a technical bug that would allow malicious actors to print assets in their Kraken account without actually spending the money. So they informed the Kraken team, who patched the issue within like a few hours of being identified. But then Certik basically held them over the barrel of a gun, as has been reported, trying to get paid, and actually withdrew $3 million, which seemed like way more than they would need to prove that the bug was real. And there's this big storm about whether Certik was acting ethically, or it was actually a white hacker in the situation, or whether they had crossed the line into the black hack by being so aggressive and actually taking out money and refusing to return it and asking for a king's ransom. So, Kyle, what do you think? Certik, black hat or white hat or somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, it's funny because the dichotomy between white and black hat is something I was certainly thinking about when reading about this. Actually, did you know that there are 6 classifications of hats?
I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
3. My mental model only has room for 3 hats, Kyle.
That's it. Well, I'll take the other 3, but the only one I remember was a gray one. I don't remember what it is. But yeah, so, I've been a proponent of, look, not that I advocate cheating, but if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying kind of thing. Because we've talked about the Mango guy who's exploiting not vulnerabilities, but the way the system works, and you can exploit it, just like a video game hack. Like in Mario Kart, as my nephews always destroy me in it. But these guys seem to have crossed that line into unethical hacking, not like ethical hacking where the banks hire people to test security vulnerabilities to see where the landmines are. These guys seem like they went in with purpose and kind of purposely defraud a company. They knew what they were doing, and it seems like when you just hold someone's feet to the fire like that and claim these funds like that, you kind of know what you're doing. I don't like to cast aspersions. We don't like to be judge, jury, and executioner, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think these guys cross the line into black hat territory. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I don't know enough about what happened, but it certainly seems like that's how Kraken felt.
Well, yeah, that's
right.
Sure.
And I think it's interesting because so much of this like white hat hacking, I think, is by custom and by just the way that like the world works when it comes to security research and penetration testing and all these things. And some of it's by consent and some of it's not. And then when things kind of go wrong, there's kind of this like, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll all help each other. But I don't think there's a lot of like, black letter law, like you must do it this way. And so it leads to these weird ambiguities where people get to kind of push the boundaries. And, obviously they're trying to get paid for finding an exploit that could have caused hundreds of millions of dollars of damage. Yeah. And they're saying, well, we want a little piece of that. And, so I get from from that standpoint as well too.
If only there was a regulatory body to fill in the ambiguities and what is and what is not allowed.
Well, they can't now.
Well, exactly. So much of that. Moving right along. Moving right along. It's a great segue. Julian Assange is back in the news, everybody. On June 24th, Julian Assange was released from Belmarsh Prison in London after he was a guest of the government for over 5 years. His release was due in part thanks to donations from crypto holders. The WikiLeaks founder will now head back to his native Australia through the remote U.S. island of Saipan. I have no idea where that is, if we're being honest, where he will plead guilty to charges of violating U.S. espionage laws. Does not sound good. Silke Noah, a crypto lawyer and founding member of AssangeDAO, a collective of cyberpunks advocating for Assange's release, said the crypto ecosystem bankrolled Assange's freedom. Back in February of 2022, AssangeDAO launched a fundraising campaign through crowdfunding platform Juicebox, and the AssangeDAO had raised an estimated total of 17,422 ETH, which amounted to $59.5 million. Moish, we've seen other DAOs doing similar things. Ross Ulbricht was one. We talked about Constitution DAO. What do you think about this? Is this the best use of DAOs? Do you think they really played a part? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you said they raised 17,000 ETH, which is about $60 million, and they spent about 37 million of that, as I understand, on his legal defense and I guess related publicity and campaigning. So look, I mean, he's definitely served 5 years, and there's these pictures of him like kind of shuffling in and out of, the different, diplomatic kind of spaces where he was hiding. And I think his plea was for time served, right? So it sounds scary, the Espionage Act, he's pleading guilty, but he got time served.
Right.
Because he had to fly in a private jet to Saipan to have a district court judge,
just like everybody does when they get out of jail.
So the whole thing is kind of crazy. But look, at the end of the day, it's hard to imagine that he would not have been freed had he not had a war chest of all this money to pay for his attorneys and to help kind of move things along through the political process.
Well, what happens to the rest of that money? If they raise 60 and they spent 37 million, where does that go? Does it go to him? Does it go to the DAO? I'm just curious to see what happens to that. I haven't even looked.
Yeah, I don't, I haven't heard about whether if someone out there in the audience knows what AssangeDAO is doing, whether they still have that, $20 million delta. And if they're now, I would presume they could vote on, if you're a DAO and you've got $20 million left over after like, hey, we did it. We freed the guy. What do we do now?
Right.
And that's the cool thing about being in a DAO is like, people that are involved and are part of that and still have their tokens and are still can probably hop on the Discord and say, hey, what are we doing with the $20 million?
Right.
Are we throwing a party in Saipan or something else? I don't know.
Yeah. I think one thing, Constitution DAO we were mentioned before, they tried to buy the actual Constitution, which I just love that project. I love talking about it. Fantastic every chance project I get. And in there, the donors received people tokens in exchange for the ETH that they donated. And in here with AssangeDAO, everybody received what are called justice tokens. And just the last we checked, according to Etherscan, there were 6,067 holders. So if any one of them are watching, please let us know. I'm just curious to see what comes next for this. Really interesting and fascinating use of the tech. I like it.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a follow-up on what AssangeDAO is going to do. But, I would think if they're justice holders, that there's probably other people out there that have been, in their view at least, wrongfully detained, that they can go now and seek justice. So, yeah. All right, well, on to a next topic, which is near and dear to my heart. Actually, before I even start this topic, Kyle, can I think I'm conflicted. Can I even talk about NBA TopShot at this point?
I guess there's one way to find out. Just let her rip, man.
Full disclaimer for our audience out there. I was an early purchaser of NBA TopShot moments. And I still hold a bunch of them. And there was recently a settlement announced in the class action by a certain Mr. Friel, where they came to a settlement where Dapper got to take a position and say these are not securities, the TopShot moments, which was one of the big claims that we had covered earlier, a decision about whether they were or not securities. And the judge had previously ruled they could plausibly be securities. So here the parties are settling it, saying they're not. But it did actually require NBA TopShot, Dapper Labs, to make some business changes. I think there's two big ones which we can discuss, Kyle. One of which was relinquishing flow tokens from the treasury of the private company back to the DAO, essentially, to the project, to the protocol. And the other is they, over the past year or so, have also enabled 4 additional marketplaces which can now authorize and display and sell NBA TopShot moments. So one of the complaints was, it's a closed ecosystem, you can't sell them anywhere else. So they actually made a change there. And lastly, there's Dapper Labs has agreed to pay about $4 million out in settlement proceeds, which for me means I will get about 12 cents per moment that I still hold, which I acquired between June 15th, 2020 and December 27th,
Drinks on Moish, everybody.
2021. So drinks on me. I now have to decide whether to submit my settlement class member claim by August 30, 2024, and I'll have a very, very tough decision to make.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask if you were going to do it. What would be the reason not to?
I mean, well, I think, I mean, everyone should make their own decision, speak to their own legal counsel. But when you submit one of these class action settlement claims, you forfeit your right to make your own claim. So in exchange for, I would assume like $3, I'm going to forfeit a class action claim against NBA TopShot. I think I'll probably be okay making that decision, but I don't know what I'm going to do with the $3. Also, I don't even know if it's like if I'm getting cash in my pocket or if I'm getting like something in my NBA TopShot
or just some other token, right?
I don't know.
Like a penance token or something like that. Although that probably exists already, right?
I'll give you some flow tokens.
Here's some more flow tokens. You can have as many as you want, really.
That would actually be kind of cool. I would like it to like, hey, everyone gets. If you want $3 USD, here it is. If you want, we'll 10x you up with flow tokens. Like I would take that deal. That sounds kind of cool.
It's funny because when we first, partnered up together, you told me that this was sort of your like aha moment with crypto was NBA TopShot. It's just interesting that life has come full circle now for you.
Yeah, this is another one of in the we'll see kind of moments here. It's like I got into TopShot early. Oh, the whole thing kind of lost its money. Oh, it's a class action suit now. Oh, so the story continues.
Listen,
saga.
There's no such thing as bad publicity. I mean, maybe there is.
Well, look, I think this is a nice result for NBA TopShot to avoid class actually being formed and having a much more significant
absolutely
decision down there.
Yeah, so. I'm kind of joking, but yeah,
I can take.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll see. Said the Zen master.
Well, our last main topic for this evening, Circle snags the first ever stablecoin license under the Markets in Crypto Assets, the fabled European Union MiCA. MiCA is definitely better to say than Markets in Crypto Assets. It doesn't have the word act at the end of it, and therefore I have trouble saying it. So I'm just going to say MiCA.
We only have acts on this side of the pond.
Correct. And, we do everything better here in America. So, I said it. So anyway, Circle has obtained the Electronic Money Institution license, or an EMI, making it the first global stablecoin issuer to comply with the MiCA. The license allows Circle Mint France to issue the EURC stablecoin and USDC in the European Union. Before MiCA went into effect on June 30th, some exchanges had delisted euro-denominated stablecoins such as Tether's YURT, and Circle's USDC is the second largest stablecoin globally, trailing only Tether's USDT. The move positioned Circle to capture market share across the EU's 27-member trading bloc, serving its 450 million people. And just interesting about MiCA, under MiCA, they call stablecoins EMTs or e-money tokens, and any company seeking to offer crypto services within this block of 27 members, which are the countries, whether it's custody trading, portfolio management, advice, will need to be authorized by only one of the 27. So that's just a nice path to compliance.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good.
I have to say, Kyle, I have not heard anyone pronounce EURT as YURT.
I have no idea if that's what it is, but that's how I'm calling it. Yeah, YURT.
YURT.
That's what it should be, right? What, YURT?
I don't know. I don't think anything should be called YURT. It doesn't sound right.
Except actual yurts. Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, linguistically, Europe, yurt. I mean, that's just, it's only logical.
Euro tethers.
Euro tethers? Yeah. I don't know. Like I'm going with yurts.
I don't know. Anyway, let's
tell us in the comments what you think. Whether I think I'm right, because obviously I said it. I wouldn't have if I didn't.
I think if I was a regulator and someone said, "Hey, can you approve my yurts?"
My yurt, they'd probably do it because they thought you were insane. Well, Moish, but without getting into Circle specifically, what do you think of MiCA generally? And now that we're starting to see the dominoes fall, and and it's gone into effect as of June 30th, now you're going to see a lot more of these entities like Circle. What does it mean? How does it compare to where we're at? Just curious, Penny, for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's great that there is a regulatory regime and that there are market participants that are doing the work and qualifying and getting approved and going out into the world and doing their thing. I'm concerned that there's a pretty small pool of people that are going to be able to possibly qualify
That's true.
under MiCA to do a lot of these like top level things. Circle obviously being one of them, but also being a very well funded, high, well backed company. And you're seeing Tether, which is also very well funded, saying, "Nah, like we can't do it, right? Or we're not able to right now." So my big concern, and I think the feedback I've heard anecdotally about MiCA, is that unless you're one of these really large players that's ready to kind of dive into this regulatory morass and like soak up the legal fees, and it's not a market you want to play in. And
Right.
I'm really concerned about the future of the EU in crypto, about making it feasible for small and medium sized enterprises to play an issue and do cool things in that market. So
right.
Hats off to Circle, but like, let's see, we'll see, right? This is maybe the we'll see episode.
Yeah, really.
We'll see, who else is able to kind of follow in their footsteps. And I'm concerned that the only people that are going to be able to do that are going to be really well-funded, well-heeled institutions.
No, it's true. And it's a fair point. And, without belaboring the topic, one thing that I do like about MiCA is that it's 166 pages long. And the reason why that's relevant is that you can read it and we can argue about whether it's too expensive to comply. And if you're not tethered to or backed by an EU currency, you'll be outright banned, or your transactions are limited to 1 million per day. Like, there are limits and there are certainly problems with it. But 166 pages, why is that important? The Securities Act of 1933, I could line the floor of every house on this block if there's a flood with how long it is. It's impossible to read. It's impossible to follow. I've been doing this 20 years and I know most of it, but it's impossible to know it all. And I do appreciate that they tried to make it at least somewhat digestible for the people. That's just something that we don't do here. So I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So we are now moving on to the lightning round portion of our show today. So let's start off. First topic. Logan Paul has filed a defamation lawsuit against YouTuber Coffeezilla over videos alleging Paul's involvement in a scam related to his failed CryptoZoo NFT project. So Paul acknowledges that the project was a scam, apparently, but also that he was deceived by advisors he brought on. So the lawsuit alleges that Coffeezilla knowingly made false accusations to gain attention against Paul, and Paul is seeking damages and, also seeking to hold liable the other advisors involved in the project. So, Kyle, what do you think? should Logan Paul be throwing defamation lawsuits out there?
Isn't truth an automatic defense to defamation? If you admit that it's a scam, doesn't that mean that you automatically lose the defamation suit? I don't know. He's only seeking $75,000. I don't think he needs the money.
Well, that's the jurisdictional amount but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, he admits it's a scam, but I think the question is probably more narrowly focused as to his participation in the scam, whether he knowingly deceived people and did it to screw people over.
He probably didn't. I mean, I don't know him personally. He probably didn't really know. He just got hired and, maybe got thrown into it. But I don't know. This seems like drawing more attention to it, whereas probably only a select few people knew about it. Now everybody knows about it. So
this is definitely a Streisand effect lawsuit here. So
also in the news,
be careful.
Yeah, right. Be careful. Also in the news, U.S. Representative Matt Gaetz, everybody's favorite, introduced a bill to allow federal income taxes to be paid in Bitcoin, aiming to integrate digital currencies into the U.S. financial system. Sounds great in theory. There was nothing really else proposed in addition to that. For me personally, I am not using my Bitcoin to pay in taxes. This sounds a little bit like sycophancy, if you ask me, but that's just my personal opinion.
Well, yeah, it's one of those examples that a good idea can come from anywhere. Look, if I could pay my taxes with Bitcoin and not itself generate a huge tax bill by selling Bitcoin,
right?
Then I would do that. So that might be a great idea to unlock capital gains that I would otherwise incur. So I'd love to know more about it and see what the options are. But I mean, look, there's a lot of people that their tax bill comes due and they're like, actually, I don't have any money. but I do have lots of crypto. So like, why not? Like we say this to everyone. Like if you're to other law firms, if you're a lawyer and someone wants to be your client, they want to pay you in crypto, are you going to say no? Or are you going to say like, sure, like we accept crypto? So that's our mindset. Why shouldn't the U.S. Treasury be the same way?
Can't be lawyers in crypto if you don't accept crypto. Just throwing that out there.
All right, next one. The US CFTC is now conducting an investigation to Jump Trading and their activities in the cryptocurrency market, as reported by Fortune. So, Kyle, what do you think about larger prop shops essentially being investigated for their crypto activities now by the CFTC?
I mean, to be honest, I don't really know much about this. This is kind of the first time hearing about it. The investigation apparently doesn't imply any wrongdoing, so I'm not really sure what they're kind of getting at here. But it's interesting to see this tug of war between the CFTC and the SEC on these different things. So I don't know, curious to see what actually happens out of this.
Yeah.
Nigeria's Federal Inland Revenue Service has dropped tax charges against Binance executive Tigran Gambaryan, Free Tigran. We reported a couple episodes ago that he had been stricken with malaria, and it was just a truly terrible situation. But now the charges have been revised so that only Binance, represented by its local entity, remains named. Tigran is still involved in a separate money laundering case brought by Nigeria's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, in which he's currently still detained in prison. But this is definitely a step in the right direction.
Step in the right direction, but Free Tigran for sure.
Yeah.
It's crazy that they dismissed part of the claims, but not all of them. So yeah, while this is great,
progress.
It's a step in the right direction. He's still stuck in prison in Nigeria. Let's bring home our U.S. citizens.
Yep.
Next one, VanEck has filed with the SEC to launch the first Solana exchange traded fund. Kyle, you're wearing the shirt. You're rocking the soul. What do you think? Is this the first of many to come?
I mean, I would think it would have to be. I know I was no grand prognosticator when I said during the ETH ETF episode that this was going to happen. I mean, obviously it was going to happen. I'm just glad that it's starting to happen. Again, it's just more adoption. The more we have of these things, the better off the entire ecosystem is. This is great for crypto. It's great for Solana. I love Solana. I got the Solana sign back there. It's phenomenal. Everybody, not financial advice, but Solana is where it's at. I think this is fantastic. It'll be really curious to see how this continues to evolve in the coming months with all these ETFs coming out. And last but certainly not least, the SEC closed its investigation into Ethereum 2.0, which is certainly, again, a good step in the right direction. Incremental progress is always a good thing. It doesn't mean that they can't bring another investigation or bring charges later. But again, it's good to see a little bit more pragmatism in some of these actions. So all good.
Yeah, I think the combination of the approval of the Ethereum ETF and the closing of the investigation into ETH2 or proof of stake Ethereum is a good sign for again, like just incremental progress and kind of establishment of what these things are.
Great job, Moish.
Great job, Kyle.
That wraps it up for this edition of Block and Order. Please remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on all our socials. The links are down below in the show notes. Please drop a comment below if there's a particular topic you'd like us to cover, or if you take issue with anything we said or didn't say, or we certainly don't want to be omitting things that are important to you. Remember, nothing contained on the show is meant to be construed as legal and or financial advice. Please consult your own attorney if you're going to take the plunge. Neither discussion nor the fact that we may own assets or products covered on this show, wink, wink, TopShot, is meant to be an endorsement of said assets.
Solana, are you kidding me? My $3.
Hey, now, it's all fair. Special thanks to producer Chris. Without him, the show would not be possible. Remember, everybody, all's fair in love and crypto. So for Block and Order, I'm Kyle Lawrence. On behalf of Moish Peltz, take care, everybody.
Take care.